Hello and welcome. I'm your host Elizibar, and this is Read Only Memories number 1, IDW. Also got the game publisher's name down here. Now, I did hear from. We're going to talk about things that aren't necessarily the book here for a second. So I did hear from. I think it was Too Mellow, who's a musician. Too Mellow does lots of really dope stuff. He made Memories of Tokyo To, which is a tribute album for Jet Set Radio. He does lots of these crazy mashups of rap songs and video game music. But he also did the soundtrack for Read Only Memories, and he told me that Mid Boss basically didn't pay anybody. So I feel kind of bad buying the book because I'm giving money to bad people. I also notice on the cover. Let's look at the cover. See that adorable, sad little robot there? So she's the main character. This robot's the person who's going to help. But I see on the cover that. Uh oh. Uh oh. You know, Cena Grace has had, what, 2 Iceman series canceled out from underneath him? It's not good. But, having said that, having went, uh oh, let me tell you, if I didn't see that name, I wouldn't have had any concerns about the writing of the book. So we start off here. The main character, Lexi, she's a detective. And we learn that the name she's using here early on is a lie because that little robot comes up and talks to her here while she's working. She's a private detective. She's impersonating a reporter. She's talking to this lady. This lady's spouse was like, I think she's cheating on me. So she's checking that out. She's doing what she has to do. She's impersonating a reporter, so she's going through like a fake interview. And the two characters, they're warming up to the interview in these pages. And we learn all about the world they're in. Research assistants at a local paper can't quite afford the housing authority fees to live on the hill, which is this place where rich people are at. So we learn lots of details about their world through natural conversation. We're not just told. You know, it's more effective to show, not tell. And if you can't necessarily just show, it's pretty effective to have one character tell another character. In a lot of fiction that you read, in fact, I was just watching an episode of Deep Space Nine, where Cisco, there's this find down in the ancient city that Cisco had found, and they take his son along. And the reason his son's going along isn't just like, oh, he'll be interested in this, because he's not. It's not just because his character's a reporter. That's the justification. No, the reason they take the son along is because there's these ancient Bajoran glyphs, and everybody that's there except him can read them, which means that they have to explain them to the son, which means they're explaining it to us. It gives a justification for people to talk about things. So they're explaining the world here in these first couple pages. It's a great, great way to do it. Now the meat of the story really starts here when this little robot shows up on the detective's doorstep. And she recognizes the robot from the restaurant where she was having that discussion, where she was working. There's lots of great narration bubbles. I really like that. This does feel like a detective story because of it. It feels like we're adapting. Yeah, actually, it feels like we're adapting some old noir story to this sci-fi setting. Now, the setting itself, I don't know if I talked about this, but it's sci-fi. It's in the future. There are robots, there are people, there are AIs, and robots and stuff can download sapience and actually develop, the ability to think for themselves, to expand beyond their programming. Very effective. I like the art style. It looks good. It's not super detailed, but it's evocative. It carries. Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes. Like all the little details that you need to understand human behavior, to understand what people are feeling, are present in here. And its looseness gives it this sort of motion and energy that is really. It's hard to top. Because sometimes you look at a comic book. I don't know. I'm looking over here at the stuff I have. And people look kind of statuesque. Nope, don't think I can show that on stream. Definitely can't show that on stream. Thanks, John, for not wearing pants. Yeah, I was trying to flip through Doomsday Clock to find something good. Ah, God, but the pictures are all too little. I was hoping for a... Yeah, kind of like, here. It's an iconic Batman thing. He looks great coming down, but he also looks kind of like he's chiseled out of marble. He doesn't look like he's this fluid bat creature that can slip and slide around. Here, no matter where she is, what she's doing, her body language carries an absolute sense of motion, a sense of personality, a sense of who this Lexi person is. So this robot's looking for her boyfriend, who vanished yesterday. It hasn't been 24 hours. She can't go to the police, but she knows something's wrong. So the detective, naturally, it's a detective story, so the detective takes the case. And she checks out the boyfriend's apartment. She does all the things you'd expect. She breaks in, she looks at for fingerprints, she looks at his clothes, she looks in the fridge, she just tries to figure it out. No forced entry, no motives, no enemies. And she knows she's not going to find anything. It's a great use of the bubbles right here. I'll find nothing. So then she goes probably to the bar that people hang out at in the game, which I haven't read the game or played the game. I keep saying read, but I mean other ways of interacting with things. I haven't played the game. I was going to. I know my buddy Stefan the Old World Gamer has played it. Maybe I'll go see if I can find his playthrough on his channel, or maybe I'll just stream it on Twitch and play it myself. I don't know. I kind of want to play it after reading this because the setting turns out to be pretty intriguing. The main story looks like it's going to be a fun, maybe kind of interesting, maybe kind of simple detective story. Don't know how complicated it's going to be. I sure hope it's not as complicated as like The Two Jakes or Chinatown or something. But I hope it's a little more meaty than like your random episode of the current Magnum PI TV series, which isn't that deep at all. One other thing, there's a little tiny mini comic at the very back in pixel art, which I really enjoyed. I just want to flip over here and look at a little bit of that. Like, this was a ton of fun, and it made me kind of wish the entire story was in that format. There's also a little cover gallery back here, and I really like that cover, but I did not see it. But it makes me wonder, like, has somebody done a hand-drawn pixel art comic before? Like, I know people have taken, like, sprite comics and done that kind of thing, but has somebody actually made, like, a completely pixel art comic and then printed it? And I'm not talking about, like, some 80s computer-generated comic attempt. I own a few of those type things where the whole comic book was produced digitally. And they were pioneering that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like strictly like sprite art, hand-drawn sprite art, or I guess hand-clicked, because you don't really draw sprite art. Somebody should, if nobody has. I think that would be fantastic. So I was pleasantly surprised at the writing, and I like the art because of its sense of motion. The lack of detail maybe is a little concerning, but I love the energy and motion in the art. Oh, and the coloring. The coloring, there's all these pinks and cool blues and stuff. The coloring is not dull. The coloring is always alive. And I like that too. So, Read Only Memories. I don't know how much I'm going to like this book going forward, but this is a very intriguing first issue that makes me want to read it some more. You all have a great day. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I sure hope to see you again next time. And until then, bye-bye. And stuff.